The Duality Dungeon has been out for a bit, and through many runs and research, I have cobbled together what you're going to witness today. The entire story of the Duality Dungeon explained. So whether you've gone through the dungeon 20 times or just loaded up the activity for the first time, you won't want to miss this one.
We have only a brief window of opportunity. The darkness is thick here.
Coalesced inside this effigy of Emperor Calus. It is tethered to his very mind. I have snared that thread, caught it between my fingers and woven it into a tapestry. One that I can weave you into. Enter Calus's consciousness. Use this opportunity to steal his darkest secrets from him.
This is not what I anticipated. The imprint of Calus's consciousness is fractured, straining, as if Calus's mind is at war with itself.
All my history is etched here. From humble beginnings to my rise as Emperor. It is an ancient tradition of our people.
Calus? No, not Calus, but an echo of him. This is a recollection of a time since past. You are experiencing echoes of Calus's personal torment, glimpses into his past which may provide insight to the future. I must focus to maintain your connection to this mindscape. From here, you must navigate these memories on your own.
Throughout the dungeon, you have the normal voice lines that play as you go through, and you also have 12 hidden lore collectibles that have their own audio. I made a previous video that shows the locations of all of those, and you can hear all of them there, but we're also going to replay them today and going to explain all the lore from this activity. The mission begins with Erismorn explaining what's going on. We are in the tribute hall with a giant statue of Emperor Calus, a device connected to his head. Eris has somehow connected to Calus's mind, and we are going to go inside to steal his secrets. Basically, we're living inside Calus's head. Throughout the encounters and traversal, we hear the voice of Calus speak of these past events and of his nightmares. Eris says that Calus is broken, and you can definitely hear it in some of these voice lines. He sounds drunk in some of them and even depressed. Something also to keep in mind is one of the main mechanics of this new activity. As you play through, you're in the normal realm, but if you shoot the giant Cabal conquest bells, it'll transform you into Calus's nightmare realm. In here, some of the layouts are a little bit different, and also different enemies appear, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. For now, let's jump right into the lore with the dialogue. I'm going to let some dialogue play, explain, dialogue, and then so on.
The Praetorate's time has come to an end. Too long have the people of Torabath lain under their heel. A world that knows only war has no future. We were not always conquerors. We were not always tyrants. If violence carved us into the shape of what we are now, then so shall violence be that shape's undoing.
The Praetorate was a high-class group that led over the Cabal legions. Basically, they would have the lower legions do the work and enrich their own lives and agendas for them. This voice line comes from a time when Calus led the Cabal early on in his career. Calus wanted to free the Cabal people from the Praetorate, take their wealth and distribute it to the people, but they of course saw things a different way, wanting to be the ones in power. Calus believed that the Praetorate was corrupt, and so he cleansed the system from their infection, though some of them would still remain.
Ever since she was born, Caiatl has shown a curiosity for the world beyond. She shares my fascinations. I worry for her, for the galaxy she will grow up in, for the future of our people. But perhaps the time for worries is at an end. My day will grow up knowing only celebration, triumph, and peace. This is the world I made. hers is distracted. I was too kind in my coup against the Praetorate, drank too deep of the cup of mercy. Now, the long shadows in the night, hands clutching knives, eyes at my back. I hear them whispering. I hear them. Soon, those whispers will become screams. The ghost Primus is the answer to this sedition. My Red Legion, anointed in blood.
Here Calus is clearly messed up and talks about he went too easy on the Praetorate. Calus had mercy, and because of that mercy, some of these high officials lived and would talk behind Calus's back, making plans of their own. Calus says the Ghost Primus is the answer to the Red Legion. This, of course, was an albino cabal named Gaul. Gaul quickly rose under Emperor Calus and became his right-hand man for a time, and he was nicknamed the Ghost Primus. Eventually, the Cabal people and the conspirators began to like Gaul's leadership better over Calus, and this would ultimately lead to his exile. At this point, those voices that spoke behind his back grew louder and louder, and from here they would form a coup of their own against Emperor Calus. Gaul, Caiatl, his own daughter, and a bunch of others listed here.
Exile is the mighty Gaul, too great a coward to kneel down and take my head from my shoulders. I am as you made me, and I will kill you for my choice. But it is not. Caiatl stained my blade. Remember that.
Calus was sent to exile aboard the Leviathan and is angry at Gaul. Why wouldn't he just kill him? He obviously had the power to do it, yet he was set on this starship to drift in space. Something I didn't pick up on the first couple of times playing through this is that Gaul actually has a new voice line here where he explains why. He says, oh, he would have killed Calus, but Caiatl held him back and wanted the exile instead.
My servants come, but I refuse their succor. I will not feast. I will not drink. I will wither away until there is nothing left. My love has been turned to poison in my veins. They do not appreciate all that I have done to them. My sacrifices! All betrayal is inevitable. We are a ring of beasts, feasting upon one another.
Here Calus is upset on the Leviathan that his people turned on him. All he wanted was love and peace and to rule over his people, but betrayal was inevitable.
You were bred to be a sorrow bearer. I seek a hive commander, but those are not so readily available. So I made you.
The first encounter we come to is the Galran encounter. From lore and explanations now, we know Calus wanted a hive commander to join his shadows and forces, but he couldn't find one. So what did he do instead? He stole the Crown of Sorrow from Savathun, birthed a clone Bather from the Leviathan's cloning chambers, and put the crown on it. This is Galran, who we fought in the Crown of Sorrow raid, and this part of the dungeon is the Nightmare of Galran.
At the edge of the universe, I stared into the infinite deep. It stared back and was pleased. I become the herald of its victory and bear witness for all creation. The key is to realize the future isn't It is a friend to embrace, a closing of the circle. And when the end comes, I reserve the right to be last.
During his exile, the Leviathan was set on a course by the conspirators randomly adrift in space. All Calus could really do was sit here with his loyalists and be depressed. One day though, as he explains, the ship stopped at the edge of the universe, and here Calus found his truth. The future can't be fought, except that final shape. He wanted to be the last to remain.
There was a time I would have gladly laid in death beside you, here in these crypts. But we were both different then. The light is a fascinating thing, and in my ignorant youth, I may have seen it as aspirational, like gold. I see this force for what it truly is. Eternal life after death is a trick of the light, an illusion. Nothing is forever. But these guardians entertain me. I will use their ignorance, shower them with lavish gifts, with praise. I will watch them dance into the grave of creation for my amusement.
Calus explains that the light is a lie. Gaul saw the light and was super obsessed over it, taking out our city and putting that cage in the Traveler, going after the power for himself. But Calus is different and obviously despises the light. Here he does admit though it was fun to mess with the Guardians who use the light, to offer us gifts and trinkets for his own amusement. This was the point of those Leviathan raids.
Savathun, she nearly had me. Had I not birthed Galra, had he not donned the crown, I would be lost. The voice warned me of her, but I did not heed it. And the voice is so silent now. The promised end is at hand, as worlds are swallowed into nothing, and I hear nothing. Excruciating silence. Perhaps I have displeased it. Or perhaps I'm not listening hard enough.
In this entry, Calus talks about the Crown of Sorrow incident with Galron once more. He says the voice warned him of her, of Savathun, but Calus didn't pay any attention to it. This voice most likely is the voice in the darkness, or the witness. At the time, Calus appears to have not listened to this voice and it fell silent. The witness may have been displeased because Calus was not listening.
Shadows were cast here, history made. In my haste to find a suitable bearer for the Crown of Sorrow, I failed to see a more elegant solution. The Hive were not those who could most elegantly bear the crown. My shadow, Catabasis, found the alternative. Mindless corpses of fallen, risen through an Ahamkara's wish magic, fueled by darkness-infused ether, the Scorn. The only component that was missing was a connective tissue, and this, the Egregore spores would provide.
Calus failed with Galron, but his shadow guardian Catabasis would find the next solution, the Scorn. Last year in Season of the Chosen, this was the Glycon incident or the Presage mission. Calus was trying to reach out and speak to that voice that was silent, And to do this, he would use darkness-infused Fallen and also those Egregore spores, plants which he found in a faraway planet, which would now bind the Scorn's tissue. During this vault encounter, we hear Calus plead to the conspirators. He has nightmares of this pastime. After you bank some of the symbols, you face 3 different bosses, and each one of them is connected to one of the members that turned on Calus. So here is the original group, the conspirators. And then after this, I'll show you the 3 bosses.
Do not open doors you cannot close. Stop! Stop! I command you! Please, no, please! Don't do this!
In the end here, these nightmares are defeated and the vault is opened, leading us deeper into Calus's mind and his thoughts. In the next 3 collectibles, Calus meets the Witness, likely joins it and explains its beliefs.
Through the crowd of sorrow, the voice of darkness called out to me, beckoning me to the absence of Mercury. At first, I feared the Leviathan would not survive the journey, as the Glycon had been rent asunder by a similar journey. But my Leviathan, it is strong. Its heart beats anew, and as it pierced the veil of creation, the voice greeted me. There were such sights to behold. There, in that gravity shadow, I was truly seen. There, I understood my role in the closing of the circle. The Witness opened its mind to me, and I saw my darkest desire made reality. I will be the last. It is my right. I am the herald. I am the end. The Witness's voice is so strong now. I hear it clearer than my own. I understand now what true paracausality is. The light and the dark are threads on a loom, woven into the tapestry of the universe by those who wield it. The Witness would see things differently. The gaps between those threads. Freedom from the greater design. Freedom for all.
Calus follows that final shape. The Witness explains that the light and the dark are not the answer, that there is another way woven in between them that will outlive everything. And this is what Calus now believes in, wanting to become that disciple or possibly something greater.
She is more beautiful than any star I have ever beheld. I name her Caiatl, for the brightest star in our sky. May she outshine it always. I have reached the limits of what this crumbling body can offer, and yet there is so much more that I must do. I must shed my remaining attachments to this flesh and ascend. The others have, and a path is laid before me. There is fear in this. Fear of losing myself. But there is no other way. I must prove my loyalty, or wither. To understand the final shape, I must become more than myself.
Calus is afraid, but knows he has to change his form, shed this body to accept that final shape, whatever that means. Now this is interesting to think about. We know Ralk wore armor, so is it sort of that same thing? Or is Calus going to transcend to something greater? A voice amongst the stars like a deity or his own witness?
My daughter, my star, my betrayer.
In the final encounter, we fight a nightmare of Caiatl. This obviously bugs Calus a lot. His daughter, whom he loved, turned against him and sent him away long ago. And the way Calus speaks in some of this dialogue, he talks about how he loved Caiatl, but now it's time to change. And given her nightmares right after this, does he need to kill her to prove his worth to the witness? So throughout this whole dungeon in Calus's mind, he is afraid. Of his past exile and coup, of losing Caiatl, of his future with the witness and shedding this body. We face his nightmares of the past in Galron, the conspirators, and also his daughter Caiatl. This depressing tale ends with Calus's transformation. Whatever's going on, he's becoming something new in his goal towards the final shape with the witness.
And so, Calus's truth is laid bare. From his rise, to his fall, to whatever it is he is becoming now, Calus is seeking transfiguration. He believes it will help him better understand the goals of the witness, the final shape. This is something I have heard spoken in Hive Apocrypha, and from the lips of Tolan the Shattered. According to the Hive, the final shape is that which remains when all that can be removed has been removed. It is as vague a notion as it is fascinating. If this is the witness's true endgame, we must strive to understand it. And in that understanding, perhaps we can prevent the second collapse.
We also can take a look at the lore from the dungeon armor. Each piece of armor has some text and then a bunch of words are blocked out, but if you combine them all together, you get the full lore tab. When I was young, I dreamt of a greater life, grand aspirations, grand imaginings. I look back to the myth of our people's past to draw inspiration and shape a future that was yet unwritten. I saw the possibility, boundless and unending. My focus was wide beyond the horizon to tomorrow's tomorrow. I held the tiny hands of my newborn daughter for the first time. She crawled into my brood pouch, smaller than a finger, helpless and blind. I was her entire world for 8 extraordinary weeks as her skin hardened and her eyes developed. She nursed, grew strong, and slept to the sound of my heart's beating in time with hers. I did not see her mother for those 8 weeks. She stood outside my nursing chamber, and her ceremonial vigil honored our act, family, and house. The old ways changed over those weeks, and with it manifest in tusk and steel. It was a pride unlike any other. None would threaten me, our newborn daughter, or her future's future. I needed no other. My focus. My momentum faltered over time, my grandest inspiration. I first noticed it when my daughter was old enough to walk on her own. My dreams narrowed down to the size of a thumb, then again when her tusk was sharp enough to defend herself, greater than the sum of her parts. And when she was no longer there, I felt great absence. I lost myself. I indulged myself in this sensation until the day I became lost in such a hollow feeling, and I let the void in my chest consume me. So this lore is also another great insight into Calus's past, especially with his daughter. It seems like Cabal males are the ones who raise the young with their brood pouches and things like that. As Calus says, he had to watch over Caiatl for 8 weeks when she was born. This could also connect to that theory that Calus may have to kill Caiatl. This is showing us their connection. He loved her so much and now they're turned away from each other. So this kind of hammers that relationship home if something were to happen in the future. Anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video and the recap of the Duality lore. If you have any cool facts about this dungeon that we missed, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.